Welcome. Hello, this is Hey. I'm not going to be doing this intro over anymore. So pretty much what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down behind the scenes of how I shot A Better Day. So if you haven't seen A Better Day, it will probably be best if you've seen it right now. Go watch it right there. Yeah, right. I think it's there or wherever it is. And this video will show you pretty much how I shot it, planned it, and how I edited it. So enjoy the video. So the pre-production started out with me stumbling upon this YouTuber's video saying that he was doing a $5,000 competition. First place will win $2,000. Second place will win $1,000. Third place, $500, and so on. His name is Matti Haapoja. Thank you, Matti Haapoja. You inspire me to shoot, go out there and, create content. Thank you, man. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of this film contest. So the first thing you got to do is you got to know what you're working with. This contest included that the film had to be between 1 and 3 minutes. You had to stay within quarantine rules, and that's pretty much it, and turn it in before April 22nd. So knowing what I'm working with, I have a house that I can shoot in, I have some props, and I also have some filming equipment. My filming equipment includes my Canon M50, my Sigma 17 to 50 millimeter 2.8 lens, a tripod, very mini tripod, 2 lights, 2 5-in-1 reflectors, 2 boom mic stands, and 2 light stands, and an audio recorder. There's 3 reasons why I didn't want to have a lot of dialogue, or if any dialogue. The only dialogue in the movie was this one.
Happy birthday.
And the reason that I didn't want to have that much dialogue is because firstly, it's hard to film by yourself. Secondly, talking to yourself looks fake and weird. Thirdly, the story doesn't call for it. I mean, isolation, when you think of isolation, you don't think of a lot of dialogue back and forth like that. So I think it really added to the story that there was as little dialogue as possible. And showing is better than telling. When you strip all the dialogue, you have to show the audience exactly what you mean. So now when coming up with a story, the first thing you got to do is brainstorm. And a lot of people say quarantine, oh, I can't do this in quarantine. You're crippling yourself if you do that. You're hindering yourself from being great. Sit down, think, write something, go outside, listen to some music without lyrics, listen to music with lyrics. Take a walk, go outside, just do things to stimulate your brain. For me, this came to me when I was sitting in my room and I seen the fan spinning, and that's where this shot came from. So after you brainstorm, you actually got to put pen to page. If you don't write down your ideas, they're going to float away, they're going to fly away, and you're going to forget. So you got to put pen to page or text to Word doc or whatever you do, you just have to put it down somewhere. You can't just keep it in your brain. Me and my friend Chris Eli Black, a great writer, we came up with a story together. We know we wanted to show the struggles of quarantine, toilet paper, hand sanitizer, washing your hands constantly. And once you have your ideas all set, you got to solidify your story. You got to know what your story is about. You got to know how you're going to get from point A to point B to point C. Like this, for things with stipulations on them for a 3-minute video, you got to know what is essential to your story, because you might have to drop some things out of your story. For me, I could have dropped the trash can scene. It helped the story to tell you that it was a ghost town in the neighborhood, but it didn't really add to the story, in my opinion. I just knew that going into my editing that I could drop that scene. And that's actually one of the scenes that I didn't take too much time filming. It probably only took me like 5 to 10 minutes to film that, which isn't that long. So now moving on to the production side. So production is pretty much where you're going to be doing your filming. So I'm not going to be able to show you each and everything that happened, because this video would be probably an hour or 40 minutes. But if you want me to specifically touch on something that I didn't cover in this video in depth, let me know and I'll make a video about it. I have nothing to do anyway. We're in quarantine. In this part, I'm pretty much going to be breaking down the lighting setup, how I shot the scenes, the composition, the set design. And for this, I'm going to be giving a struggle for every single scene that I went through. And I'm going to be going in order of how I shot this. If people don't know, films aren't usually shot in order from first to last. It can be shot based on how efficient you can be. So if I have 2 bedroom scenes, I'm just going to shoot 2 bedroom scenes back to back. The bathroom scene was the first scene that I shot. I like how it said movies aren't shot in order, but the first scene is the very first scene that I shot. And the struggle with this scene was I almost quit on the first day. First day of shooting, almost quit, almost wanted to give up. The problem was I got through half of shooting and I realized that I was on a different color profile. Color profiles are pretty much like filters on your camera. I wanted to shoot in a flat color profile so I could do everything in post. When you're shooting and you know you're going to be doing some editing in post, the best thing to do is shoot in a flat color profile so you can change colors if you want to, shift around contrast and things. Pretty much a flat color profile is shooting everything flat, no contrast, as little contrast as possible. Shooting flat means you can keep the details in the lightest parts and the darkest parts of your image. This is called dynamic range. It's also in your phone. It's called high dynamic range. And this pretty much means that it's doing some software processing to say, oh, this is the lightest part, this is the darkest part. We want to mush those together and make those the same exposure or brightness level. Dynamic range separates the big budget filmmaking cameras from a DSLR, a mirrorless camera, or a cell phone. You don't care? Oh, okay, well, I'll just move on. So pretty much, as you can see, I set my tripod in the tub. I had my light bouncing off of my shower curtain, which hit me in the face, giving me a very soft, appealing light, no like harsh shadows or anything like that. And I also had a hair light that was right above me, right out of frame. I also wanted to turn on the bathroom light in the bathroom just to give it a little bit more flair, I guess you can say. And what you're gonna see a lot during these behind the scenes is me focusing myself or me reaching for the camera and trying to focus myself. This is because I really didn't have anybody else to really like stand there next to me and focus me into focus and, you know, do all those little things that you really don't know if you're shooting with somebody else or shooting a subject. So you really have to be determined and fight through all the struggles. What I did for a lot of the shots where I, you know, turned on the faucet or, you know, film me grabbing the soap or the hand sanitizer is I pretty much bounce light off of a 5-in-1 reflector, the white side, to, you know, spread the light out more to give it a softer, you know, feel so it wouldn't be as many harsh shadows everywhere. I set these shots up to not be exactly the same so it could make it look like, oh, bouncing from this to that to this to that to this to that to this to that. It worked. I don't know if you noticed, but when I grab the hand sanitizer, there's nothing but cleaning products, nothing but quarantine products, wipes and gloves and things of that nature, just to, you know, insinuate more what is happening in this state of quarantine. Now, the next scene that I shot was my room scene. The reason I shot my room scene next was because it's right next to my bathroom. I started with the last scene first and not the second scene because it was already nighttime at that point, and I feel like I could knock that scene out while it was night outside. The struggle of this scene was that it was very hard to nail focus by myself, you know, shooting on a 50mm lens, you know, reaching out and trying to, you know, focus and then stepping back, you know, setting markers and changing things in the scene and setting up things, you know, it was really hard to do that, but I didn't see a lot of out of focus shots, maybe a couple, but not too many out of focus shots. Hello. Now, the second struggle was me trying to figure out exactly what I wanted to do with this scene. I knew that I wanted to have a present. I knew that I wanted to, you know, do certain stuff, but I didn't know how I wanted to shoot it. I didn't know the composition that I wanted. I had to experiment. I had to take my camera off the tripod, move my camera around, be like, oh, that works. This works. That looks cool. This looks cool. This is where I say pre-production works. If I would have just done a test shoot of it, I wouldn't have been sitting around for maybe an hour trying to figure out, oh, how I'm going to get the light to flick on and set it down at the same exact time. It was just hard to do because I didn't have everything planned out. Another thing that helped me out a lot is my Canon M50 has a Bluetooth, which I can hook to my phone. I can see my camera on my phone, which is a big help. I can see the composition. I can see what's in focus. I can, you know, move things around without even looking at the camera. Now, a lot of these shots were me trying to bounce around light, make it really soft, because everything was against the wall. All the pictures and things that you see back here behind me were against the wall, and I didn't want shadows to be, you know, casted on the walls. I mean, shadows are good, but at the same time, I necessarily didn't want them to be very harsh. I have to show you my favorite shot. This is my favorite shot to set up because I made sunshine with little itty bitty light. I just took a light, set it outside my window, and flashed it in between the windows and it looked exactly like light. You couldn't tell where it was coming from. You thought it was the middle of the day. Everything within the frame. If you couldn't see the light outside, then you thought it was sunny outside. It was probably 2 o'clock at night. I did not know that I could do something like that. I've seen it done, but I didn't know that I could do it with a couple of lights that costed less than $30. Usually what I do when I'm lighting my face is I have a 5-in-1 deflector. I unzip it all the way and I have the diffusion and I set the light behind the diffusion and I shoot the light straight through the diffusion. I aim it at my face and I might have a feel, I might not have a feel, depending on how I want that scene to be portrayed. Sometimes you like a little darkness, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you move a 5-in-1 reflector right here and it'll fill in this side of your face. So a bunch of people have been telling me that their favorite shot of this film is the fan spinning very, very slowly. Really, this scene was one of the easiest scenes to light. I just pretty much shot one of my lights straight into the fan to give it a little bit more light. I shot down, framed it, got my composition, made sure the mirror hit the door, and I also used my sunlight trick. Keep your set clean. Keep it clean, keep it neat, you'll find everything. So the next scene is the kitchen scene. I know what I said. Films are not shot in order, but whatever. It was only 8 scenes. My biggest struggle with the kitchen was being distracted. I was in the kitchen. Kitchen leads straight into the living room. My sister was watching some movie. I would peek in every once in a while. I couldn't focus on the main objective of shooting and getting the film done and getting this done. She watched 2 films before I shot everything in the kitchen. That slowed me down so much. But other than that, the kitchen scene wasn't hard because it was almost like the bathroom scene. The only difference is I had to control light. I had the black 5-in-1 reflector taking out some of the light so I can have full control over the light. I would bounce light off of the silver side or the white side, bounce it back into the stove or the cup or anything like that. And I would also light up the background if I needed to do that. Making the sandwich. After I actually ate this sandwich, one of the best sandwiches I've ever had. What I regret about this is the light was shining directly on the side of my face and it wasn't in front of me, so it didn't light the other side of my face all that well. I wish I could go back and reshoot it, put the light a little bit in front of me instead of directly on the side. It was just a little bit of a mess. Fun fact, I didn't even use any soup. That was ramen noodles. But to sell the fact that I guess it was chicken noodle soup, I always had the can in the shot and I make sure once the can was poured out that I framed the top of the can out of the shots just to make it seem like I might have opened the can, but the can is still back in the cabinet. Focus up. Focus up. Now for the living room scene, again, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I know I wanted to have a montage of me doing things. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. At one point, I wanted to read a book. I had no idea what I exactly wanted to do. This goes back to pre-production. If you plan out your pre-production, your shoot will be as smooth as butter, the premium butter. This scene also took a little longer. These long scenes add up. It becomes a 7-hour shoot day and it should be 2-3 hours. Thankfully, this scene wasn't that hard to shoot. And I also got my sister to help me with this scene. I needed somebody to do the TV. Thank you, I appreciate you. She put her hand or a book in front to make it look like the TV was changing. I really wanted to sell this effect that I had a TV screen. You know, I can't really do that on my own. And that goes back to knowing what you have. I knew I could kind of convince my sister to be a TV. The trend here is when I'm shooting myself, I soft light myself, I put it behind some diffusion, I shoot myself, and I try to give myself a little bit of hair light or backlight just to separate me from the background. I try not to feel as much just to give it a little bit more dramatic feel. It's a dark quarantine film. I also like darkness because it brings out the shadows, it covers up some things, it leaves you in a mystery. The living room scene was honestly straightforward. Control all the lights in the house. Thankfully, it was night outside, so I didn't have to block off any windows or, you know, make the kitchen dark or anything like that. It all worked out. Now, the next scene that I shot was actually my mama's bedroom scene. No, she is not sick. She does not have coronavirus. She's in very good health. She just helped me out. This scene was a struggle because the lighting was so difficult to handle. I just could not figure out how to exactly light this scene. Like, it was just so difficult, whether it was trying to create sunlight, trying to keep the sunlight from getting in, taping off curtains to lighting the subject, not wanting the subject lit, only wanting the soup lit. I actually had to go back and do reshoots because I wasn't pleased with how I shot it the first time. And the second time, I actually used my 50mm 1.8 lens from Yongnuo. This is a beast lens. I love 1.8. Close down that aperture and it looks so good. But that is not exactly why I use my 50mm lens. I'll get back to that in a second. I was using two different lights to light the scene, a very cool light and a very warm light. I put the orange gel on one of my lights and it just threw off the white balance so much that I couldn't even restore it in post how I wanted it to. So in the end, what I decided on doing was I would shoot it how I shot all the rest of the scenes. I wouldn't add any orange, blues or anything. What I wanted to do was symbolize, you know, that orange and bluish, tealish kind of look, but it just didn't work. So I had to revert back to what I knew, which was using only one type of color temperature. The reason you want your color temperature to be right is because you don't want this white to look like blue. You don't want that back there to look like orange or anything like that. What I did was I put up my 5-in-1 reflector, the white side, took a picture and set it to custom white balance, and that white balanced everything. When you mix cool and warm light, it doesn't know how to balance that type of color, so it just, you know, averages it out and it doesn't look real. I set up my composition, set up the lights. When I set up my light, I had a light and then I had it diffused, hitting the subject, and then I lit up the room with the other light, diffused it if I need to, bounced some light, took out some light if I needed to. Still not all that pleased with the final product, but it still worked. Finally, the outside scene was the very last scene that I shot, excluding reshoots because I had to go back and shoot my mama's bedroom. This was the second time that I was about to quit, but this one was far more serious because I broke my 17 to 50mm 2.8 lens, beautiful lens, my Sigma lens. I was trying it. There was supposed to be a car shot, and what ended up happening, oh my gosh. So I had my tripod halfway in the door, halfway out the door, and I went to close the door, not knowing that my tripod was halfway in the door and out the door, and it just went face first into the concrete, and I just thought, the film is done. It's over. It's over. I've seen people drop lenses, you know, their lens is fine. Their camera's totally perfect, but mine was cracked. It was bending sideways and I was so upset that I just cracked it in half. There was no repairing it. It was tilted to the side, so I just cracked it in half. But I mean, I guess now it's kind of funny because it makes for a little bit of, you know, good effects, I guess. I wish I could have took a picture of it, but at that time I wasn't even feeling like up for even continuing the film. This is the first time I've cried in a long time, and like I spent so much money on this lens. Now I have to go buy a whole nother lens. You know, it is what it is. My mama came in my room and she was like, you need to finish this film. You did all this work and you're gonna finish this film. Now I kind of wanted to already finish the film. I just probably wasn't gonna finish like the outside scene. Pulled it together within like 30 minutes. I put on my 50mm 1.8 lens, which is actually a little bit better since I was filming outside with little to no light at all, and I got the shooting. It actually worked a little bit better than I thought it would. Actually, this is the lens that I'm using right now, and you can find it a lot of places under 50 bucks. This just proves that you don't need the most expensive gear to get a good image, or to even get a good story, or to make the audience feel something, or composition. Those things matter more than a $300 or $400 lens, or even a $50 lens. Things come before expensive equipment. What I wanted to do was I wanted to portray that the outside light was on. Shot it right on the side of my face. I like lights that have a reason to be there. I don't like, oh, we need light because we need light. You're gonna be like, hey, where did that light come from? So when you're shooting your film, you have to think of these things. What is making this light? Is this a kitchen light? Is this a lamp light? Is this a sunlight? You have to make it seem realistic. You have to make your lights seem realistic and not just shot because it's dark over here. Make it a reason that light is there. Put some practicals in there, shine a light there, but you have to make it realistic. That was the last thing that I did before importing everything into my computer and going right into post-production. I honestly don't know what the system is for Hollywood, but I'm just gonna give you my process. This is what I pretty much do for every single project that I shoot. I put things into bins. I organize them by scene 1, scene 2. This is what I shot in this clip. And that just makes it easier to find exactly what you are looking for when you say, where's the clip where I bring her the soup, where I squeeze the hand sanitizer? Next, I look through all the clips and I drop down the good clips that I want to use in my project, or the good pieces that I want to use in my project. You just look at the good takes and you take the good takes. Even if it's a duplicate, take the good takes and then you can see which one works with your timeline later. And then once I do that, I just put the scene like exactly what I want in that order. It doesn't have to be tight. It just makes sure that it's in order. So after that is done, I do a rough edit. After that, I do a rough cut where I pretty much tighten everything down and I make sure each scene flows into the other. For this example, I would cut down some things to make it fit into 3 minutes. Then after that, I moved on to sound design. Every single sound that you heard was recorded externally with my external audio recorder. I shot everything from the footsteps, water, hand sanitizer. I did some of the noises even with my mouth. If you can hear this, that was done with my mouth. Slowed it down, reverbed, and it was perfect. Oh, and the beginning scene. This sound was used by the fan in my bathroom. I just slowed it down and reverbed it. The next thing I did was I found music on the YouTube library. And these songs can work for any film. You just have to go in there and listen to the songs and, you know, have an open mind. Don't think, oh, I need a hip hop song. I need a country song. I need a jazz song. I need a classic song. Think about the story. What does the story need? If it's a funeral, do you really want to play some hip hop music? Unless that's what you're going for. If you're at a party scene, do you really want to play some classical music? I'm just saying, think about these things and stop being in your ways about, oh, I listen to this music, so I'm gonna use this music. Use the music that fits to your story and what you want to portray, what you want the audience to feel. After I did everything with sound design and I feel like it's presentable, things are on time, no sound is out of place, all the sounds are audible, I then go and add effects to my video. And that might take a little long, so that's why I save that step for like way later, unless it's very, very necessary. Next, I add a color grade. And before the color grade, I added a color correction. The color correction is you correct the color so you can add a grade to it so you can make it maybe blue, so you can make it green without the image falling all the way apart. So you can add colors, darkness if you want, light in certain situations, and take away color and fix skin tones. So color grade and color correct are different. Color correct should be for each individual clip and color grading should be for the scene. So you have to go in and color grade and try to not overdo it. That is the part that sells it the most, unless that's what you want. And the next part is fine tuning, where I go in and see, do these colors match? Does this flow really well? Is the sound too loud? Is the sound too low? And pretty much just go and watch it maybe 5 to 10 times, just thinking of those things. The next thing is you show it maybe on your television, see it on your phone. You need to look at it on different screens so you know how it will look when you upload it somewhere or when you send it to somebody. And then after that, I do a final draft, which I show to trusted individuals, friends, maybe that's family, people who are not going to hold their tongue about the story, some people who are going to critique it. So if you find those trusted individuals and they say, oh, this is really good, you know you have a good story. Final step is what can be better? What part is lacking? What part needs to be better? And once you find that, fix it and you can do your final export. So that was the full journey of my short film, A Better Day. I just want to say again, thank you to Matti Haapoja putting on this film contest. This made me get up and actually shoot something and not just sit around and be lazy and exercise my creative bones. This quarantine should not be something that makes you depressed. You finally have free time to do whatever you want. You have so much time now to just do anything that you want. The more I've thought about it, the more I've realized that everybody's situation is unique. And the one thing I've learned is that instead of copying someone else's model for a low budget film, you really have to look at what you've got available and see how you can tell the story you want to tell using the things you have around you. I'm not here to give you the blueprint. I'm not here to be like, oh, you should shoot things like this. You should do your lighting like this. No, this is just for me to inspire you to get up and do anything creative that you always wanted to do. Stop Netflixing and chilling and actually get up and do something. I'm just saying, I never thought I'd do this. If you enjoy the video, subscribe, hit that like button, and leave me a comment down below telling me how you like the video. I'm never going to do that again. This is just me putting out my content that I want to put out, and every time I do this, I want to get better and better and learn more things. And if you want to come along with me on that journey, hit the subscribe. Love, peace, chicken grease.